and welcome to the Cheer Up Podcast. I'm your host, Kara Hunt, and with me, as always, is the wonderful and lovely and beautiful Sherry Swalwell. How are you doing this morning, Sherry?
I am doing great, and I have to tell you, I have mixed things up today. There's no
Oh,
coffee.
really?
There's no tea. I am drinking bubbly. Yes, I am.
It's bubbly, really?
Yeah, blueberry pomegranate. It is so good on a hot summer, wonderful day with the sun shining and the birds singing. It feels so refreshing. So yeah, I'll go back to my coffee, but today I decided to do bubbly. Although I call it Bubbly from that commercial. He always calls
yes.
it Bubbly. So I always thought that was the real name, but it isn't. It's bubbly. So
it's bubbly. Is that what they call it? Because I've seen the commercials, and I'm like, what is that? Because I always thought it was bubbly as well, but it's just like a fruit infused water. Am I right?
It's like a sparkling fruit infused water. Yeah, exactly. And so the one I'm doing today is a blueberry pomegranate. They also have this like blood orange something. I don't remember what's mixed with it, but I really want to try that flavor too. It's good. It's one of those things where like I'll probably be sipping on the same can of it all day long. I have it in a cup with a bunch of ice, but I don't really like sparkling water, to be honest with you, but this one's like really good to just sip it a little at a time. Kind of nice. So anyway, I mixed it up today. So
and I love sparkling water or just like fruit infused water. And now they actually have cups designed to where you can they have this little thing there to where when you tip the water to drink, you can put your own fruit in there.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
So see, this is new to me, so I'm like, oh, okay. So, so everyone, Sherry has mixed it up today. She's enjoying her bubbly. I'm actually drinking. It sounds crazy because it's a hot June morning, and we've been kind of a heat wave here in the Midwest. But I'm actually enjoying some raw cocoa. Hot cocoa. I usually make mine with raw cocoa and organic raw cocoa and coconut milk. So, and stevia, to just keep it kind of clean and healthy. And I just love it. And a little bit of organic vanilla, and things like that. So, and everything, so it's just really good. So she's enjoying something cold. I have something warm. And guess what? We have another awesome guest with us this morning. We have Christian romance author, Candice Sue Patterson.
How are you today, Candice? We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm doing well. I am enjoying a hot drink as well. I'm still nursing my coffee this morning.
I love coffee, and I could talk about coffee for hours. So do you like tell me what kind of coffee do you like? Do you like straight coffee, or do you like flavored coffee? Do you like to put stuff in your coffee? How do you drink your coffee?
My first cup of coffee of the day, I like something bold. I usually do like a Starbucks breakfast blend. I use a Keurig, and I just put a little bit of creamer in with it, no sugar or anything. And then my second cup of coffee is usually something flavored.
Oh, nice. So like, do you like flavored coffee itself, or do you like put in like flavored creamers? Which do you like better?
I usually do just a flavored coffee. My favorite creamer is the Dunkin' Donuts Extra Extra, which I'm sure is completely unhealthy for me, but it gives it a nice creamy flavor, and it really tends to, I feel like, bring out the flavor of the coffee a lot better. So.
Well, it's funny because we were moving our son back from college, and we had stopped at the U-Haul place to pick up the trailer to bring all of his stuff. And the lady, she treated me like I was a best friend. It was so cool. And they had one of those Keurigs that you could get your own coffee there. So she's like, oh, do you want to get coffee? Have my creamer. She gave me her very own personal creamer that she brought with her. It was Italian sweet cream. I had never tried it before, but I had wanted to. Oh my goodness. So I say that
one is good too.
it's like the Dunkin' Donuts one, where it just brings out the flavor. Because really, there's not much of a flavor to it. It just brings out the richness. It was so good. So good, in fact, that I bought myself another one yesterday at the store.
And you guys, that sounds so good, Sherry, because I have never heard of an Italian sweet creamer. And it's probably a good thing because I'll probably be adding it to everything.
I know. It doesn't last long in my house, so I don't buy them very often. I had gotten myself from like a quarter of a cup of creamer to 3/4 of a cup of coffee down to not using creamer at all, or just using creamer, no sugar, just, like the plain half and half or whatever. But every once in a while, I still like a treat. So I think I'm going to try that Dunkin' one now, though, Candice. That sounds really good. I think that's going to be my next splurge. Maybe the next time I go to the grocery store. And I'll compare the two, see which one I like better.
See which one. Oh, wait. They sell Dunkins in the market now? You don't have to go to the actual place?
Well, it's just creamer, like it's coffee creamer that you.
Okay.
Extra, you said.
Oh, right. Okay. Because I'm like, they've come a long way since the Dunkin's donuts that I remember of old.
Well, to be honest, though, Kara, if you go in like the coffee drink aisle, which I'm not sure what aisle that is. I think it's like by like the monster drinks, I think. Don't quote me on that. They do sell them there too. They sell like iced coffee or refrigerated coffee or whatever, and it has the flavors already in there with the coffee.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. You can like get everything nowadays.
See, so Candice, it sounds like I'm not the only one enjoying a warm drink this morning.
No, I'm the oddball. I'm the one that chose to go different today.
But everyone, we just want to thank you again for enjoying and joining and listening and faithfully coming back every week to the Cheer Up podcast. And we just want to give another shout out to all of our listeners out there who constantly share us on social media, leave comments, subscribe, and all of those, and who are faithful listeners every Wednesday morning. So we just want to thank you guys. Thank you so much, and for tuning in. For the past year and a half or so. I think we're going to go on 2 years pretty soon here. So just thank everyone for doing that. And for those of you who are new, we are the Cheer Up Podcast, and you can find us on all major podcasting platforms. So whatever podcasting platform is your favorite, you should be able to find us and listen to us. Just type in the phrase Cheer Up Podcast, and we should be able to come right up. And then we have new episodes every Wednesday morning. We're up, new episodes are uploaded every Wednesday morning. So, and always feel free to go back to all the previous episodes because there's plenty of them there now. We're coming up on almost 100 episodes, believe it or not. So there's everything from parenting to marriage to our love of books, our love of worship and praise music, to all of that. So whatever you like, chances are we probably covered the topic. So, and as you guys know, this month we've been talking with some of our favorite authors, and Candice and I have known each other, has it been like eight years now or so?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, around that time, and because she's also a member of the Quids group that we've been talking about this month, and but I think we existed maybe about a year or two before you joined. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly. It's been so long. It's like, things like that. So I always like to think of Candice as the baby of the group because she's like significantly younger than the rest of us, and that's all I'm going to say about that. About giving away my age, too much there. But she is an awesome, awesome author. She has a book out that just came out. Was it a few months ago? Saving Mrs. Roosevelt. Was it 2 months ago? Tell us about that book, Candice. Tell us what it's about and what inspired you to write it.
Well, Saving Mrs. Roosevelt is part of Barber Publishing's Heroines of World War II series, and that entire series is full of intrigue and adventure and romance, and it celebrates all the women, the unsung heroes of World War II. Some of the stories are set overseas, and some are set on the home front. Saving Mrs. Roosevelt is set on the home front. It is about Shirley Davenport. She lives in Maine with her father and brothers, and her brothers have gone off to war. And she has a strong desire to do something for her country. She wants to get into the action too and help. But, being a woman, there's not a lot of options when it comes to that. unless you're a nurse or, you're going to sew blackout curtains or you live by a factory, where you could jump in and get a job. And so here she is on the coast of Maine, and she wants to jump in, but doesn't feel like there's a whole lot she can do. And her neighbor, who feels the same way, comes over one day with an advertisement for this newly created reserve of the Coast Guard called the Spars. And this was the first ever female-only division of the Coast Guard. And her father doesn't want her to join. He wants to keep his baby girl at home, but she wants to do something for her country. She's a real patriot. So her and her neighbor, Joan, and best friend, they sign up for the Spars. They end up at separate training camps, and Shirley ends up in Iowa training there, where she meets the elusive Captain Weber, and she ends up sent on the spy mission to help filter out who is causing threats to Mrs. Rosie.
That sounds really, really interesting. And the one thing I love about Saving Mrs. Roosevelt and the whole topic of it is because you just don't seem to find a whole lot of books out there that covers the women of World War II. And not only that, Shirley Davenport and SPARS, SPARS, were real events and real organizations. Am I right? Real people and a real organization.
Yeah, Shirley Davenport is fictional, but the SPARS were definitely a real organization, and their director, Dorothy C. Stratton, she is in the story as well. She was a real life person. While I was researching the SPARS, I came to find out that Dorothy was the Dean of Women at Purdue University, which is just a few hours from my house. So I was excited about that because not only did I get to write a story set in Maine, which is one of my favorite places, but I got to throw some Indiana history in there as well.
Oh, yeah. And so Dorothy Stratton must have been who I was thinking about, was the real person. Mm-hmm. And SPARS, tell our listeners what it stands for, the SPARS.
So when Dorothy was asked to create a name for them, she came up with the SPARS. That is the Coast Guard's motto, Semper Paratus, or Paratus, always ready. And so she created SPARS from that. And she was just an awesome lady. She did some work with the Waves before she transferred over to the SPARS. And she just did a lot of great things for women at that time, but also for our country as well.
And sometimes I think of those women, and actually I was just talking about that with someone the other day. They're like the unsung heroes, of that mm-hmm. time, because there were so many of them who were on the, what do they call it, behind the scenes, that were doing so many great things that I think they just don't get talked about a lot, And tell us a little bit more about the romance part of it. So Shirley Davenport, who did she? Well, I don't want you to give away too much of it, but who's her love interest? I guess that'll be fair.
Yeah. His name is Captain Weber. And when the SPARS actually started, the Navy was in on it as well. They, because the Waves was the reserve of the Navy. And so they helped set up the SPARS. And then once they were established, they faded out and left it solely to the Coast Guard. So Captain Weber is actually a naval captain. And he was there helping set up the SPARS, and that's how they come across each other. He has had a major tragedy happen in his life with his family in the war, and so he just is in a very dark place when Shirley comes into the scene. And without giving too much away, she really helps him to realize that some things that happened were not necessarily his fault.
Okay, so they fall in love, mm-hmm. or kind of, sort of, somewhere along the way. So, Sherry, do you have any questions for Candice?
So, obviously, this book is a very well-researched book. It's a two-part question. One, mm-hmm. What do you like writing better? The research part, like the part that's the true life that you intermix into the book, or the fiction that you get to make up surrounding around the real life research that you did?
My favorite is creating the fiction around it. There were no known accounts of a spar participating in any spying, so that part of the story is completely made up for my mind. But I loved that part. I know that some readers have mentioned in reviews at the end when they read the author's note, they were kind of disappointed to find out that part of the book wasn't really true. But that to me was the funnest part. I love writing that because
that speaks well to you that you did it so well that it sounded like it was real life. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was just so much fun. I mean, this book was so much fun to write. I wrote it during the COVID shutdown, so I had all this extra time at home, and it was just fun. You just putting one puzzle piece together after the next and the next, and it that to me is the funnest part. I do love the research, and I loved researching Dorothy Stratton and Helen Schliemann, who was kind of like the vice president of the SPARS. They were also they knew each other, her and Dorothy, at Purdue, and they worked together there. So I loved researching those women and creating them into characters in this book as well.
What got you into historical romance versus like contemporary or something else? I'm so glad that you write it, but I'm just wondering, have you just always loved history, or what put you into that genre?
I have always been a history buff. When I actually started writing about 10 years ago, I started writing contemporary romance, and I have several contemporary romance novels in publication. The switch to historical kind of came about suddenly. One of my critique partners, Peg, who you guys talked to recently, she had an agent at the time, and they decided to put together a proposal to Barber for a Lighthouse Brides collection where all the stories would be centered around some type of Great Lakes lighthouse. And so she said, I'm trying to get some people on board for this. At the time, their collections took 7 authors. So she said, would you like to get in on this? And I was really intimidated because I love historical romance. That's what I read more than anything, but I hadn't written any before. So she said, I'll help you. You know me, I know my history. I'll help you. So so we jumped on board, and then her agent ended up throughout the process becoming my agent. But Barbara took it, and once I started writing that, it was a novella. I just realized how much I loved writing historical.
That is so awesome. What a total God thing.
Yeah, it was. And I since then felt like he's transitioning me from contemporary romance, maybe not completely, but for the most part into writing historical now, which, I never saw that coming. So that's totally his plan, and I'm 100% okay.
Do you want to share with us some of your titles of your contemporary ones for people who like both?
Yeah, I have a couple of novellas, Bright Copper Kettles and Silver White Winters. They're both Christmas-themed novellas. I have a 2-book series set in Maine. It's How to Charm a Beekeeper's Heart and How to Stir a Baker's Heart. And then I have it's technically a YA romantic suspense called Preserving Liberty. And it's kind of a National Treasure, the movie with Nicolas Cage. It's kind of got that feel to it. So those are my contemporaries. And then my historicals, I have the Great Lakes Lighthouse Brides collection novella, the Lumberjacks and Ladies novella collection. I have Saving Mrs. Roosevelt, and then a new one that'll come out in May of 2023. It's called The Keys to Gramercy Park.
That is wonderful. How long have you been on the writing journey?
From the time I was probably around 16. I saw a commercial for the Institute of Children's Literature on television, and they said that if you had any interest in writing, you could call this toll-free number and they'd send you an aptitude test. And so I did that, and I filled it out and sent it in. And they accepted me, and my parents and I sat down and talked about it. And so I actually it was a 2-year program. I did that by correspondence my junior and senior year of high school.
Wow.
So you were serious about it, even at a very early age.
I was. I've always loved books. I mean, from the time before I could even read, I loved books. I was bugging everybody in my house to read to me constantly. They were so relieved when I finally learned how to read. But I just always loved books. I mean, I used to sit with cassette tape and my Casio radio as a kid and record myself reading books out loud. And I would play librarian. And I've just always been fascinated with books.
So you were doing audiobooks before there were audiobooks. You were narrating your own books. I mean, you were narrating other people's books, you know.
Well, I was always nervous about having to read out loud in class. And I was probably in maybe third grade when I started doing that. And I felt like that really helped me feel more confident in my read aloud skills. And so that's kind of why I started doing it. But then afterwards, I'm like, this is fun. I kind of like this.
Right. You're right. I remember those days where the read aloud days. You're right. I think I was in about third or fourth grade, and you know, the teacher always say, "Okay, now you, Kara," you know, and everything else. And it's like, really? And it wasn't that, like you said, it wasn't that. I mean, I could read, and I was a pretty good reader, and I loved to read. But it was something different about reading out loud, isn't it?
Yes. All eyes on you.
Yeah. And it's like I would stumble over words that I knew I shouldn't be stumbling over, you know. It's like, because you get nervous, you know. You would get nervous and I would stumble. So I didn't even think about just getting a recorder, because I'm pretty sure we had tons of them around. I think I had a Fisher Price recorder back then, you know. And something like that. So that would have probably been good. And I just would have gotten used to doing it. And then that way I wouldn't stumble all over my words, looking like, you know, like I couldn't read, you know, but I could actually read. And Sherry was asking you earlier about your research. And one thing I love that you share all the time on, I believe, your author Facebook page is like when you're writing about Maine, you go to Maine.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
and
that was one of our favorite places to go. And that a lot of my books have been centered in Maine just because I've seen it, you know, the sights, the smells, the sounds, and that really helps me bring it into the setting.
You're really good with that because as of right now, I have not yet had the chance to visit the state of Maine. So, and that's one of the things I love about well-written books that can put you in that setting, because I feel like I've been there through your books. You know, and so like if I go, I kind of have a sense of what Maine is about. And I know it depends on what area you go to, and you know, and different things like that. But through your books, it's like I feel like I get to experience it. Have you ever been to Maine, Sherry?
It's on my bucket list. I want to go all up through the New England states. So no, not yet, but I want to.
Yeah, it's like I've never had a chance to go there. And do you drive, Candice, when you guys go up there, or you fly?
We typically fly. The year that we went and took the kids with us, we did drive that year, and we made several stops along the way and the way back. But no, if we're going straight to Maine, it's just my husband and I. We usually just grab a quick flight up there. It takes about 2.5 hours, and Portland's a great smaller airport. And but then from there, we usually have to rent a car because the towns are so small and spread out that if you drive along the coast, I mean, it's going to take you several hours just to get to, you know, just have midway up the coast. So.
Oh, okay. Just even get up there. So you definitely need a vehicle.
Yeah.
When you land.
Yeah. Because the coastline is so rugged and the route just twists and turns so much. It takes longer, but it's great because, I mean, every place you go to it offers something wonderful. And so it's nice to just stop and drive through all those little towns and see what's out there.
It sounds beautiful.
Doesn't it? And it's like, because that, like you share, it's like on my bucket list, it's always one of those places I've always wanted to go. But I wouldn't know where to start. It's like, you know, Maine is not necessarily one of the bigger states, right? So it's not like it's like huge as far as that goes. But it just seems like for someone like me who would be a tourist, it's like there's just so much beauty out there and so many things to see. I wouldn't know where to start, and things like that. But you've been there several times, and I love how you bring all of that to add that kind of authenticity to your books. And so, besides Maine, though, do you think you'd be writing about any? For those of you who don't know, she's an Indiana native. Do you think you'll be writing any more books about Indiana? Well, regarding like in the Indiana area.
I would like to someday. I mean, I would just have to come across the right thing, I think. But yeah, I mean, I love Indiana. I love. We live in southern Indiana, but I've lived in Indianapolis, and but yeah, I and that was what was so fun about Mrs. Roosevelt, was getting to throw some Indiana history in there. And Kara Putman, who endorsed the book, she's actually a professor at Purdue. And so she said she enjoyed reading it because, it mentions Helen Schliemann, who, helped Dorothy with the spars. And she said that there's actually at Purdue a Schliemann Hall. And so she said it was neat getting to read about the people that, I see their names and stuff around campus every day. So she said it was neat to experience that.
I think I've read, because Kara Putman's an author too, right?
Uh-huh.
She writes Christian fiction as well. And I didn't even know she was a professor until now.
She's an extremely talented lady. She just does it all. She's got a lawyer degree, and she is a professor at Purdue, and she writes legal thrillers. And she's like a hummingbird. I don't know how she does it, but she always does it with a smile on her face, and she's fantastic.
Right. And see, as far as there's kind of like a little distance between what I like to read and what I write. I have no idea how that works. But my two of my favorite genres is political thrillers and legal thrillers. And the reason I probably don't write political thrillers is because I'm not a politician. I have never held any type of political office. And I don't know that world, right? So I obviously couldn't write political thrillers, but I love reading political thrillers and legal thrillers. I love them, like Kara Putman and Randy Singer, and different books, those who write that. And of course, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't write legal thrillers, I don't think, with any real authenticity that the readers and stuff would enjoy, and different things like that. But so I didn't know that she was a lawyer. That is interesting. So to find all of that out. And so Sherry, before we wrap up, do you have any more questions?
No, I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you, Candice. And I have some friends that I am definitely going to be telling about how to turn a beekeeper's heart and how to stir a baker's heart. Those are right up this one friend's alley. So I'm really excited to share those and read them myself, actually. But
they're really good. They're really, really good. If you guys love sweet romance, sweet modern romance, they're really, really good. I just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry, Sherry.
No, I'm glad you did. That just shows even more that when we get off the phone, I'm going to be heading over to Amazon. So.
And are they Amazon exclusive, Candice, or are they available like at Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, different places like that as well?
Yeah, they're at most major retailers. You can find the ebook pretty much anywhere. The print versions at this point might be few and far between. Those were published in 2016, 2018, I think. So I'm not sure how many print versions are still out, but definitely they're on Kindle.
Yes. And, Candice, I don't even know if I mentioned this to you or not. So I live in a small rural area, as you know, that part you probably know, in Missouri, about an hour or two outside of the St. Louis area. But again, it's a small rural area. I just want to emphasize that for what I'm about to say. So in this little small rural area, we have just one teeny tiny, and I say teeny tiny because when you look at it from the outside, it looks tiny, bookshop, little bookstore. in our area, about 5 minutes away from me. And I was in there not too long ago, and I went back there to the section in this little town that probably no one has ever heard of. And right there on the shelves was Saving Mrs. Roosevelt from Candice Patterson.
Oh.
Yeah, so, yeah, it was like, I was like, oh, Kurt, I was talking to my husband. I'm like, oh, look at this, He's like, oh, yeah, that's your friend, right? I'm like, yeah, I was like, right out here in the middle of nowhere. Well, I call my place the middle of nowhere. Kind of where we are. And they're one of those mom and pop bookshops that kind of survived the pandemic, and different things like that. And they've been around for like maybe 30 or 40 years. And there was your book right there. There's your book. I'm like, oh, I was like, it's out here. It's so much fun, So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, because they don't carry a big selection out there because, like I said, they're a little small mom and pop type bookstore, but they had your book in there. So that speaks volumes. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, thank you.
So, okay, Sherry, was there anything else you wanted to add?
I'm just so grateful that you came and spent time with us today, Candice. It was so much fun getting to know you and getting to know the different variety of books that you have. And I cannot wait till your new book comes out. You said in May of 2023?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's May of 2023. It's called The Keys to Gramercy Park, and it is what they call a split time novel. So some of the chapters are contemporary and some are historical. And as the story moves on, the storylines weave together. And so it is unlike anything I've ever written, but I always love a challenge, and I'm having a lot of fun writing it.
I can't wait to check that one out as well. It has been so much fun to have Candice today and to spend more time with Kara, and I hope that you all enjoyed it as well. John 16:33 tells us that these things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. As I was sitting here listening to Candice today, I was thinking about World War II, and I was thinking about just life in general right now. And I was thinking about the father's feelings of his not wanting his daughter to go away, but she's patriotic, and so she couldn't not go away and serve her country. And I was just thinking there's so many similarities that the world seems to just, I forget what the exact phrase is, but there's nothing new under the sun. Like, we all experience the same thing. So if you wait a little while, it'll come around again. It'll come around again. But isn't that wonderful that God gives us peace through all of it? He says, don't worry. I have it. I've already overcome this. And that just makes me feel so peaceful. And it fills me with hope, knowing that no matter what I'm facing today, no matter what it is in the world that I wake up with that has me worried and has me twisted in knots, that God says, give it to me. I've got it. You're fine. We're fine. It's good. But we have to invite him in first. We can't just expect him to do it for us. God is a gentleman, as I always say, and he's not going to come where he's not invited, where he's not welcome. Do you have a relationship with God? Do you have that kind of camaraderie with him that you can go and talk to God about all of your problems, or are you just getting to know him? If you are at a point right now, as you're listening to this podcast today, and you want to know, Sherry, how do I have that relationship with him? How do I know that God is the Lord and Savior of my life? Well, it's really easy. All you have to do is pray this prayer with a submissive heart. And it says in the Bible, we're assured that you will be saved. So if that's you today and that's what you want to do, then I invite you to pray this prayer with us right now. Oh, Heavenly Father, I come to you in Jesus' name. I believe you died on the cross and that you rose again and you're seated on the throne. Jesus, forgive me for all that I have done wrong, and I choose to forgive all others. Come into my life today and forever. I am yours. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer with us, then I say welcome to the family. And I want to encourage you not only to tell somebody about what you just did today, but I also want to invite you to find a Bible-believing church so that you can build a community and you can learn what the next steps are to grow. because God doesn't want you to just have it be a one and done or a get out of hell free card. He wants a relationship with you. And that's what's so exciting. So thank you. We're excited for you. And if you want to find out more about Candice's books, head on over to her website, CandiceSuePatterson.com. CandiceSuePatterson.com. If you want to find out more about paper dolls with Kara's, the first book in Kara's series, the Habakkuk series, head over to Kara's website, KARARHUNT.com. And if you want to come over and check out the membership that will help you grow in your relationship with Jesus, called Jesus in the Everyday, you can head over to SherrySwalwell.com, TheSwalwell.com. While you're there, you can look around. There are nonfiction books, fiction books. Just get to know it. Do you need prayer? Would you like encouragement? Then email us at cheeruppodcast@gmail.com or join our Facebook community called Cheer Up Podcast on Facebook. We would love to have you join us, and then you can meet other people in the community as well. We are so glad that you were here with us today. Come back next week, and you'll get to hear all about paper dolls with Kara Hunt. I am so excited because I get to interview her, and we get to hear the nitty-gritty and find out the behind the scenes and why she wrote what she wrote and what's to come after Paper Dolls, because it's a 7-book series. So again, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.